Mr. Swamy, you cannot turn issues of policy into issues of criminality overnight. You cannot turn issues of policy into issues of criminality.
I'm sorry, you should have to read several Supreme Court judgments to know that you cannot make policy arbitrarily, unreasonably and on malafide. You have to consider all policy alternatives, analyze them and then pick the correct policy. After that, nobody can fault you. Here there was no analysis. In fact, the Finance Secretary told the Public Accounts Committee that there was no analysis whatsoever whether low prices will help the country and the subscriber or a high price will be better for the country. It's not a question at all.
No, same argument can be put to the BJP. Siddharth Singh, sorry to come to you so late. Here's a question. But the point being made earlier is that you cannot turn a policy issue into a criminality issue. That should actually work for the BJP. Because many of your previous ministers have also been under the scanner.
I felt there is a mini courtroom which was to happen on 28th and Supreme Court was happening on your channel, which was being debated, and perhaps the political voice was not required. But since you have asked me, finally you have asked me a question, let me be honest. You see, there is a corroborative evidence which is pointing towards Chidambaram. There is something which has come out through an RTI. Everybody has debated well that the CBI should have investigated that part of the Finance Ministry's note or the memorandum to the Prime Minister. But the truth is that if any Finance Ministry or any ministry writes to a memorandum to the Prime Minister, it doesn't work in a vacuum. There are enough documents which they study. On the basis of that, they bring to a conclusion and then they write. So the Finance Ministry in March 2011, they concluded and they put it up as a memorandum to the Prime Minister where it says that then the Finance Minister could have stopped this 2G spectrum scam. Now, and it also says that it was seen by the Pranab Mukherjee before it went to the Prime Minister. Now, Mr. Salman Khurshid, as a good lawyer, can infer that there is a difference between seeing and approving. I don't think in a government, if a memorandum being put up to the Prime Minister, a minister will see and say, if it is rubbish, I've just seen it and I've not approved it. So I think these arguments are failing. The government is in a bind. They don't know which side to go. There is a civil war. There is maximum the government can do and the Congress can do is delay the inevitable, but cannot avoid the inevitable. And the inevitable is that Chidambaram must be investigated. And once the Chidambaram is investigated, I know Mr. Subramanian will not agree with me, but the Prime Minister cannot escape his responsibility and cannot hide behind political compulsion.
Mr. Swamy, you have in the past given a clean chit to the Prime Minister.
Yes, I have. I have given it. I said that he is guilty of civil wrong. I have not seen him having made any money in all this. And I don't see that he has been entrusted with any responsibility except the general responsibility of being a Prime Minister. And we know how much that also has been devalued by extra constitutional authority in the system. And he has, therefore, on record, I have not seen anything that he has done which can be called as criminality. Of course, he could have asserted as Prime Minister, and therefore, for not asserting, he is guilty of civil wrong, which can be taken care of after the criminal case is over.
But I'm confused here, sir. I don't understand your selective, Mr. Swamy. I'll tell you, you're selectively kind on some people. In both the Prime Minister's and the Finance Minister's defense, it can be argued they maybe knew of Raja's decisions but were unaware of the motive.
No.
Shouldn't they be given some benefit of doubt?
In the case of the finance,
equally for both.
In the case of the then finance minister, it was first resolved by cabinet of 2003 that only the finance minister and the telecom minister will decide. Then, after that, the 2006 amendment, they were not even to report to the GOM.
It was the
they had
Prime
to only
Minister
report to the Prime Minister.
You're getting
from January, we see that the finance minister, Mr. Chidambaram, then finance minister, is meeting Raja. There is a meeting of minds. There is a clear conspiracy. In fact, Mr. Chidambaram is the senior partner and Raja is the junior partner. And the criminality can come out. But I am not going to raise that in the Supreme Court. No. Because that is not required in the Supreme Court.
There's a question coming your way from Siddharth Singh. Just take that question. Yes, Mr. Singh.
Arnab, my question is, if Mr. Subramanian is saying 2003 cabinet note, who turned that cabinet note in 2006? It was with the approval of the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. Then there are many other questions which Mr. Subramanian Swamy must answer, why he is not blaming the Prime Minister. The 122 licenses were issued on 10th January 2008. The LOIs were issued only till February 2008. Then the licenses were issued till April. The spectrum allocation happened after April 2008. Look at the ISRO. There was ISRO Act, which the Prime Minister turned it after 2 years. The Prime Minister was aware in 2008, through the media, through opposition, through his own colleagues, that a big scam has already happened, irregularities happened. He could have stopped even then, but he did not. So to say that Prime Minister had the hands-off approach is impossible to be accepted.
Let me say that after this Chidambaram case is over, you can have a special one on the Prime Minister, and I am ready to discuss it.
Well, I think, right now, some would say, Mr. Swamy, your target is only Mr. Chidambaram. 1 minute. It's TSR Subramanian wanted to...
Well, originally, Mr. Karunanidhi said my only target was Mr. Raja because he was the Dalit. Then it became that I was anti-woman because I was after Mr. Kanimori. This kind of thing can go on being said. But the fact of the matter is that I am a private individual. I cannot take everybody together. I am doing it step by step and I am getting results.
TSR Subramaniam, yes, you wanted to come in, sir.
I think only 2 points. The question of loss was discussed. They said there's a cabinet decision of 2003 on which all the decisions took place. I think 2 things. That decision was on the basis that the benefit should go to the public. The fact that licenses were sold at 8 to 10 times the price shows that the purpose was not met, and therefore there was clear loss, number 1. Secondly, I think it's important to understand that in the context of this 2G allocation in 2008, enough noting is there in Finance Ministry, in Telecom Ministry, FA of the Telecom Ministry that auction should be done. The TRA has recommended market dynamics. At least there are 20 notes floating all over the place.
What notes?
Now, when a note comes of this sort, I know that within the Finance Ministry there is a detailed note clearly recommending that there should be auction. It's not surfaced as yet, it will surface. Now, in these circumstances, clearly it is not an act of omission to go by...
One minute, sir. One minute. Second time you have said on the show today.
What's the decision?
Sir, second time you have said on the show today. Second time you have said on the show today, there are notes, they will surface. As the petitioner, Subramanian Swamy should subpoena you to get access to those documents you have referred to. No, I'm just saying. You should.
There's an easier way.
Yes.
Arnab, there is an easier way.
Yes.
May I say that?
Go on.
Arnab, the easier way is for the petitioner to file an application before the Supreme Court in the pending matter, which is in the interest of a public interest litigation, that the court should summon the entire record of every department, the Finance Ministry, the Telecom Ministry and the Prime Minister's office.
Yes.
And the entire record will come to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court can thereafter itself examine or have somebody, an amicus curiae or somebody to examine the file and see who is culpable and who is not culpable. Who has committed a criminal act and who has not committed a criminal act.
Thank you very much. That's a brilliant suggestion.
But why?
That's a brilliant suggestion.
That's actually, this, but nobody took my suggestion seriously about Subramanian Swamy needing to subpoena Mr. TSR Subramaniam today. Nobody took that seriously. 1 minute. What my
every
question?
record will be there in the Supreme Court.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will, and maybe that's a way of
former cabinet secretary saying.
Maybe that's a way of pulling this whole story together politically. Politically, my question to Siddharth Singh is...
So that it does not come out every 15 days. It doesn't come out in tranches.
Absolutely.
Everything will be there all together to be examined.
Well, maybe that will require a much more detailed investigation. Politically, Mr. Siddharth Singh, what if, look at this possibility, what if day after tomorrow Prime Minister reaches, Pranab Mukherjee says, it is just this is one of the opinions of various people in my ministry. I don't know what the media is talking about. I don't know what Mr. Subramanian Swamy is talking about. Suppose the court says tomorrow there is no conspiracy. Then what happens? Back to square one for the BJP.
The court is not going to say that because the court is not going to say that because that's not the issue before the court.
It's time the Congress and the government stop this act of hiding a broccoli in a glass of milk. It is visible, it is known that what has happened, and we had said it in the beginning, that Raja alone could have not masterminded a huge scam like this. There are many others. The Prime Minister is hiding behind saying that there has been a political compulsion. That's the title which the Prime Minister is entitled to give. But there is the conspiracy, and the conspiracy is collective conspiracy to loot this country under a title called, which is the Prime Minister given title, that there is a political compulsion.
Okay,
everybody has connived, and there are people who have felicitated this entire process where it has come.
Sure.
So I don't think the government can hide too long now.
Mr. Sushil Kumar, when did you last meet your client, A. Raja?
This morning, for
What is
4 hours.
What is he saying about all of this going on? What is his view? Give us the inside story.
He is very confident as soon as Mr. Chidambaram is examined by the court, the whole truth will come out, and it may lead to the Prime Minister also later on.
Okay, we will leave it at that. Is Subramanian Swamy doing Mr. A. Raja a good turn? Will he subpoena Mr. TSR Subramaniam once the news hour is over tonight? Gentlemen, we follow the story, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Arnab.
That's a joke. Thank you very much for joining me on the news hour tonight. That was so interesting.